So real quick, we're going to take a look at these lists. They're out of order this time, just like last time. Can we try to put these in order from the perspective of how learners learn? So out of these C's, you have confidence, content, collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creative innovation. Does anybody remember which one comes first in the process? Go ahead, Pam. Collaboration, which is the odd thing, that it's actually a connection that leads to better communication that will then allow for content to be shared. Got it. So collaboration, remember what's next? I kind of just, yeah, go ahead, Pam. Communication. Yep, kind of gave that away. Please, again, do not misunderstand that content is king. So if we don't give our young people and our families more information, then we're really not offering them anything. All of us are in need of more information. Okay? The more information we have, the better we can think critically, we can grow. Now, the problem is, how do we get that content to them? Are there some people out there that just want to be helped and other people that don't? Or is there something bigger? Is there's something larger behind why people have trouble learning from others? And is there a way that with an informed practice we can actually start to exchange more content with those that in the past have not gained content? So, okay, collaboration, communication, content. Remember what was next? Critical thinking. Once you have new information, now you can say, okay, well, more saying this. And I think Miss Nichterline told me this, and my mom told me this. Okay, I have all this different content, now I can think critically on it. Okay, well, who would I really, who has the best, maybe, experience in this when it comes to this particular topic? And you started doing that. What was after critical thinking? Yeah, creative innovation. Now you can take the information you have and apply it to other areas. I'm not a terrible basketball coach. Though I only played 1 year of basketball in middle school, and I only got in at the end of the games to foul their best player, because I always have 5 fouls left because I hadn't played any minutes, and they were like, you run around and you don't let him score. Okay, but I made an okay basketball coach because I have played Division I soccer, and when it comes to team offense, team defense, moving, flowing together, I could take information I had from my soccer days and apply that to another field, to basketball, and say, look, all I know is if you force them to their left and they're not left-handed, it's going to be really hard for them to tear us up. So that's how you can start to think critically, and then you can creatively innovate. You can maybe teach math even though you're a reading teacher, because there's some carryover. You can creatively innovate and make that happen. Okay, and the last one was confidence. It's not until you have confidence in a particular field that you are no longer afraid to fail. Okay, and that's a huge thing. And once our guys, right now I'm worried because the Goliathon is on Saturday. I'm worried that some of the guys on the team are going to intentionally or unintentionally get in trouble this week, so they don't have to go. Because as a coach, there's a few guys that aren't quite there with the confidence yet in their skills, and so they have a fear still of failing. So they'd rather get in trouble here, just like kids who get in trouble the day before home passes, because they're not quite confident yet that their grandmom that they love, that they're not going to be able to go home and express that in a way that doesn't lead to them needing to go to crisis. Okay, so we're trying to get the guys confident. All right, this is the first list, second list. Does anybody remember the order of these R's? And this is how God loves us, how He approaches us. What's the first one? Reclaim. On Friday, Miriam reminded me that if I'm going to love the guys on our team in the way that God's loved me, then I have to remember this order. And there was a young man that I needed to actually go into his room, or go into his cottage, knock on his door and say, it would be hard for me if you weren't at practice today. And guess what? That kid popped right out of bed. That's all it was. And some would say, yeah, but life's not like that. Well, God is. Okay? And He shouldn't be. So oftentimes it's the mercy that God's shown us, that gives us the mercy to chase somebody down that's left us. It's a beautiful, encouraging picture. I'm glad God has chased me down when I was running the other way on many occasions. So reclaim, what's the second R? Redeem. And redemption has to do with paying a price. Okay? So that means after we reclaim someone, it's not enough to say, hey, you're my student. We got to show them. And how do we show them? By paying of something that's ours. By sacrificing. Real love, to love others as God's loved us, it takes sacrifice. So just like Hosea, after he went back and found Gomer and claimed her in front of whoever was abusing her and using her at that time, the next thing he did is he took the money out of his wallet and he took his shoes off and he showed her how serious he was about her by sacrificing of what was his. And for those of you that bring in, I don't know if you still do it, but maybe bring in something from home, like a snack or something like that, that is a sacrifice. And I'm not saying it's always the right thing to do, but it does communicate. Here's a better example. For those of you who do not eat food that you buy off campus in front of the kids who are not able to buy food off campus, that sacrifice, though you don't have to make it, is communicating a redemptive love to our guys that they might not even recognize. You're sacrificing, oh my goodness, I got this cheesesteak I just brought in, but the kids are having chicken nuggets, and I'm sure they'd rather have a cheesesteak, but they can't have a cheesesteak. So I'm going to try my best to get over to the side, or eat at a table away, or maybe just eat it, I know you don't have much time, but you guys understand what I'm saying, right? That's a sacrifice that shows the redemptive love. We see that at the cross in Scriptures. What was the next one? Reclaim, redeem.
Renew.
So, renew. And Kim, she pointed out that these are in alphabetical order, and I haven't been able to help people until she told me that. It's been 2.5 years that it took me to realize alphabetical. So the idea is this. If we really, maybe another time we'll look at it closer, but there's a redemption story here, a story of redemption, where we're reclaimed, we're redeemed, we're renewed, we're restored. Our origin is reclaimed, where we came from. God does that for us. We didn't necessarily come from Camden or our mommy's belly or our father's, from our father's loins. Though all those things are true, if we could start to understand there's a beginning long before our conception to our story, and there's an end that's long after our last breath here, it starts to help even if you've had a very traumatic 15 years, 16 years, it helps to put things in perspective. So reclaim, redeem, renew has to do with the process. Has to do with once you've invested, now you're committed in long suffering and kindness and patience to the process. You're not going to check out when they don't appreciate your reclaiming and redemptive love. Okay? But I gave you a candy bar yesterday and you're still okay? It's like, I'm glad God, with all the blessings that He's given us, I'm glad He doesn't just say that to me. But you have breath. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about all that. What if He said, I gave you legs? I don't know. Okay, the last one, restore. Restore has to do with having a hope that whatever's broken can actually be fixed. That's very hard sometimes. That there's a hope that whatever is going on, however much trouble you're having, and no matter how many residential programs the kid's been in, that there's a hope, that there's a way, that there's a power that's able to, there's a light for that darkness. And, okay. 2 lists. What did we say the similarity was between these 2 lists? One of the similarities as we just look at them. Does anybody remember? Any similarities? So, in a way, we could say connect before correction or correct. Connect before correct. It does not mean this is not essential. Don't get me wrong. But in order to get here, okay, we have to connect. And for a lot of the kids that we work with, unfortunately, people keep starting with this and having expectations. And then they keep getting pushed away into a group that says they don't want to learn because they're not good at these things that actually lead to this being shared. So, connect before correct. God, while we're still sinners, has sent His Son. The idea is that we can connect again with Him, even though He's holy and righteous and we're not, that there's a way to connect that now He can start to correct. And by correct, I mean teach us how to see things the way that they need to be seen. Teach us how to act in ways that we need to act. Teach us how to love. Connect before correct. Okay, so the essence of adolescence, I don't know if anyone brought their worksheets that they had last week. If not, it's okay. You can just kind of focus up here. It is on one of the worksheets. Dan Siegel, a world-renowned neurologist who has specifically spent his years studying the adolescent brain, which is who we're working with for the most part. He says that there's an acronym that can help us understand the adolescent. Okay? And oftentimes, after we're past that period, it's crazy how quick we forget what that season was like. And for good reason, our brains change so that we don't have to think like we thought when we were adolescents. So the essence of adolescence, you have ES, SE, NCE, essence. It's an acronym with basically 5 points. Emotional spark. Spark. Anybody guess the SE? This is like hangman a little bit. Emotional spark.
Social engagement.
Social engagement. Did you study?
I have my paper.
Okay, social engagement. Okay, how about the N? Think about an adolescence. What is something that is like a huge part of it? It's exciting. I don't know if you get this one. Novelty. Thank you. Novelty. And CE is creative exploration. It's not to say that little kids don't need these things. And it's not to say that older kids don't need these things. I think I'm spelling this right. Exploration. So this is the essence of adolescence. Why is this helpful? Because if we're going to connect, if we understand the value of connecting before we correct it, if we can understand the essence of adolescence, those things that are happening in their brain, also in their hearts and their minds, then we can meet them where they are. Our communication pathways will get better, and then we'll be able to exchange content. Has anyone ever heard that, wow, or during the teenage years we're really emotional? You ever hear that? Man, those kids are really emotional. So another way of looking at emotion is just motion. The period of adolescence is a time of movement. From where to where? Where are we moving? Why is there so much movement that needs to take place during adolescence? Moving from what to what?
Child to adult.
Yeah, from child to adult. That's a big jump. So your brain during adolescence is not growing. If you look at brain scans, it looks like it's dying. Because there's actually a lot of pruning going on. When we're little, it's like a sponge taking in all kinds of different information. You can be interested in a whole bunch of different things, bouncing around, but during your teenage years or during adolescence, you're becoming more specialized. You're getting more focused on some of the things that you're interested in. Maybe you're really interested in sex. Okay? You're very interested in that. Or maybe it's your baseball team. We used to play basketball, football, and baseball, but now it's basketball. You're becoming more focused because that's actually preparing you to be more successful. You're becoming specialized in areas. Okay? That, combined with something else that's going on in your brain, makes it the most boring period, the most boring developmental stage in your entire life. During adolescence, your baseline dopamine levels are lower than any other time in your life. So if you're the best teacher in the world, but you teach adolescents, You are fighting a battle not just against, the internet, okay, or not just YouTube or Facebook or those games that can draw kids in. You're fighting a battle against what's happening in their brain, where they're having a lower baseline dopamine level, which means things don't excite them as much as they used to. Why is that good? Why is that a good thing? That a child grows to this stage where things that used to excite them no longer excite them. What are some thoughts? Why is it good for a 16-year-old who's not excited by Elmo and puzzles and his stuffed bear? Any thoughts? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Good thing.
Good thing. Why do you say that, Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Was it a guess? Go ahead. Okay, we call it maturing, but if things were still as exciting, if things weren't happening in the brain to help them be bored out of their minds, they would just stay in the house for the most part, especially if that house had a roof and some food, even if mom and dad were jerks. As long as they could just curl up in their ball or get on their blankie or get their, they could still stay interested. So that's why novelty, that's why this. Jace, I'm out here, come on. We'll get a kid up that normally won't move for anything. Alright? Or JC, I got keys. Well, what happens is their baseline dopamine levels that are way down here, just bored out of their mind, now they get a spike. And that spike, the difference between where they're usually at and where they're at in that moment, it's so high, it's such a big difference that it literally is a high. It's higher than you and I can get with novelty these days. Okay, new things for us, exciting, cool. But that spike isn't as high. We don't feel that same high that we felt when we got that knock. Okay, so also there's things happening in the brain, not to go too far into this so we can look at how it applies to what's in front of you. But what's pretty cool is the brain is adapting to recognize reward more than risk. So when we can do math in a situation and say, wow, there's some good things that could come out of that decision, but there's some bad things that could come out of it, and we could kind of weigh the scales, there's actually things happening in different parts of the brain that help so that you can see the reward, but not the risk. How could that be helpful during adolescence? How could that be a helpful thing to move from being a child to help you move to being an adult? Where you can see the rewards for something, but you're not necessarily recognizing the risk.
They try to get to the award, like that's their goal.
Okay. Yep. They have that goal. Not courage. Helps with being courageous, doesn't it? When you can see the rewards, but not necessarily the risk. For that guy that does the first backflip on the motorcycle or on the snowmobile, he's looking out there and he's so focused on, I'm going to land this to be the first person that ever has done a backflip on a snowmobile. And I'm going to get the whatchamacallit award, and it's going to go on the X Games, this. And they're so focused on the reward. He's trying his best not to think about, if I land wrong, I'm going to die. Okay? Adolescence, the brain is helping them to do that so that they have courage to actually start to step out and take these new risks and these new challenges. It's actually great that they're taking risks. Great. It's exciting. Okay? If they didn't have that courage, they'd get stuck. Now, 100 years ago, you might have gotten your daddy's farm at 16. Now you're living in mommy and daddy's house as you have all this courage to go out and try all these new things. Now you might be there until what? You're 25, 30, maybe longer than that, just because of different things that are going on in the world today. Which makes it really hard when you're trying to get out of your adults. You're trying to move away from the adults. So who do you take the journey through adolescence with? How do you make it from child to adult? Who do you go with? Who do you journey with?
Your peers.
Your peers. Why not mom and dad? Why not Aunt Tanya and Uncle Tony? Why not your teachers?
They're boring.
They're boring? Yeah. What else?
Not cool.
They're not, yeah, just remember, you're trying to get away from being a child. You're not going to take the journey with the adults in your life. Okay, so that's why membership during this period of your life, because you're moving out of your family unit. You used to be a member of a family unit with these parents, but now you're trying to get out of this to be your own person, to be your own adult. That's why membership in a new clique or group to take that journey with becomes more important than morality. Your morals can still be strong, but when you do the math, it's like, yeah, but I need people to take this journey with to get away from the parents, so I'm going to pick Billy and Peter and, Samantha because I got to go with somebody. I can't just go completely alone. So you take the journey with your friends. All right. So our block programming has been developed with these things in mind, and understanding that if we can help kids, help provide environments that provide these things, it actually gives us as the adults the best chance to stay connected during this period of life. I'm sure you've heard the stories of the parents that said the kids weren't able to go out and hang out with that group of kids. And their goal was to keep them connected to them, right? Keep them on the right path. Not always the most effective. What is more effective oftentimes is telling your kids, why are you here? Why are you at home right now? You should be out doing something. You should be out, like, go do something. What do you mean go do something? I don't have any money. I got money for you. Okay? I got a couple bucks here. Go out and do something. Well, what am I going to do? Well, don't you have such and such and such and such? Or why don't you try, football or basketball? Now, you can kind of guide. And that's really the best you can do during adolescence. They're moving away. You can guide if you understand these things. And you can create these environments that will eventually have those teenagers or those adolescents running back to you. Like asking you for advice. When you understand these things, providing novelty, it's actually easier in some ways to work with adolescents than any other age group if you understand these things. Because you wouldn't believe the stuff that they'll get interested or try, as long as it's new, as long as it's different. Okay, thank you, Kim. As long as it's different. So, if you guys look in front of you, you'll see everybody should have a block like this. So if you can imagine, every kid comes to Rancho and they get their individual block. The object or the youth's object is to populate their block. Okay? This here is the super block. This is where we put down all of our individual blocks to see how we're building as a community. So that's the hope and prayer, that we be a community that's demonstrating a reclaiming, a redeeming, a renewing love towards each other. And so, every one of these squares here, this is actually Trey's block before he left. Every one of these colors, these filled in spaces, represents a mission or a campaign that Trey chose to complete. Now, I think everybody should have a card on their desk or a card close to them. So everybody has a different example of one of the missions. So could somebody read, does anybody have an educational campaign? Each setting, there's 4 different settings, residential, clinical, educational, and recreational, has a different color. So if you have a blue card, you have an educational campaign. I think I can see a blue card here. What is that mission, Ms. Nickerline?
Can you repeat that? I didn't know.
What is the mission on that card, or the campaign? What does it say at the top?
Builder? Is that what you're
Let me
talking
see.
about?
That's right. Right here, apple for the teacher. Okay, in order to complete that campaign, what were the actual objectives?
Write a letter to a former teacher who made a difference in your life. Read the letter with permission during English class. Email, mail, or give the letter to a chosen teacher.
Okay. Simple, not too difficult. Does anybody have the recreational campaign 5 for 5? Have that one? And what are the objectives for that one?
Take 5 consecutive 3-pointers from each spot behind the 3-point arc. left corner, midpoint, between left corner, center corner, and mid corner.
Okay. Make 5 consecutive 3-pointers from around the arc. That's a recreational campaign. You guys kind of getting how the campaigns are developed. Do you guys think that's a hard one or an easy one? It's very difficult. So if you look up in the corner of that, I think, does it have the credits on there? How many credits does this one? Let me see. So the top right corner where you see a little circle has 5 credits, right, Pam? Okay. So if someone completes that, let's say Jace completes that campaign, he's going to get 5 credits that he can use at the end of the month to choose a different type of reward. So he's going to get credit for doing something hard. Now, do you think that campaign is an individual campaign, a family campaign, a neighborly campaign, or a community campaign? Individual. Yeah, because it really doesn't consist of him engaging the community. Does anybody have a community campaign? That would have a picture of 4 people on it, a sticker with 4 people. Anybody have one like that? So if you look at the top left side, you'll see people. There'll be like 1 person like this.
Jackie has 4.
Jackie? Okay, so Jackie, since you have 4 people up there, that's a community campaign, and what color is it?
It's green.
It's green, so what setting is that campaign for? Residential, clinical, recreational, or educational? Green is for recreational, got it. Okay, go ahead. If you could read us the name of that campaign.
It's to conquer the Goliathon. It's coming up. Learn the Goliathon team requirements, join the Goliathon team, maintain eligibility, volunteer 10 hours at event site, and receive medal for commission.
Got it. So why is that a community campaign, do you think?
Teamwork.
Okay, teamwork. What else? I don't know if anybody heard the third objective, I think it was, complete 10 hours of community service at the actual grounds, getting the course ready. So 4 different settings. There's 4 different types. Individual, that would be here, individual. That's where the individual name goes. If you look at your block here, it's the blank space where the kid's name would go. Individual, family, neighborly, and community. So if you complete an individual campaign, you bring 1 person to your block. So this one here, Trey's got 1 individual campaign that he completed here, a rec one. When you look at Trey's, do you see a strength in a certain setting? Do you see a lot of colors that are, the same? Okay. Family? Okay.
Blue.
Okay, blue is school. Blue's educational, so if you look at Trey, he actually has a lot of blue on his.
Which makes a lot of sense because Trey was very academic oriented.
Yeah, now Trey also was involved in a lot. Some kids, when you look at their block, they only have 1 color. Some kids only have community and neighborly campaigns. No individual and no family. Why do you think that may be? They only have done community and neighborly campaigns, but no individual or family.
Family structure.
Yeah. Yeah, and what that does is it helps us to find that kid and say, you can actually complete family campaigns with us. If you want to go out and you want to try that, it gives us a chance to connect in new ways. So our block has so many different campaigns in all the settings that the hope is everything's different enough. Not that every kid would do every one, but that every kid would be able to find 1 thing that could get them engaged in our community. So by their emotional spark. Then social engagement, it's about connecting with your peers. So you get signatures from your peers to say when you've completed something. That's and then you come together with your peers. It's about giving them a chance to be a member of something bigger. Novelty, again, they're all different. They're all weird. One of the newest campaigns that I want to release, it's from a friend of Mr. Prashanti's. It's make a bag, right? Out of...
Take a shopping bags, like a yellow ShopRite or a blue Walmart, and you cut them into long strips to make it like yarn, and then you knit or crochet a mat or a hat and give it to homeless because they don't deteriorate, they don't get wet, and they actually preserve warmth.
How many kids that we currently have do you think would do that campaign? A couple, right? But for that one that does it, and for the one kid that reads that one and says, I'm going to try that, and completes it, how do you think that's going to mean to Ms. Prashanti's friend who actually made that campaign? It's going to mean a lot, right? When we reach out and say, hey, there was a youth that just completed that campaign. One of my favorite campaigns is called, I gotcha.
They gotta get to, well, actually, Pam's gotta get to class specifically for the age.
I got
I just wanna be out front because I know that there's some discussion about.
Okay, yeah, the kids come out too.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I appreciate you guys.
Sorry for
Thank you very
cutting it
much.
short,
Sorry.
Roger, but.
Yeah, I hope, there's more details. Will you read some of the paperwork?
The vinyl R blocks, we do not take